This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
Attention homeowners. Due to upcoming government regulations, the current energy efficiency ratings for HVAC systems will change. Current inventory cannot be sold after December 31st. As the year 2023 starts, customers can expect to pay an average of 30% more for a new HVAC unit that will meet the new government regulations.
So what does this mean for you, the customer? There's no better time to purchase a new HVAC system. AAA Heating and Air must empty their warehouse to make room for the new systems. No deals will be turned down. With their 15-year parts and labor warranty plus guaranteed financing, they have made it possible for anyone to get a new system.
Call today and enjoy your new home comfort as quickly as tomorrow. But you can only get this special deal by calling 803-677-1500. AAA Heating and Air wants to give you their best deal possible on a new HVAC unit, but you have to call today. 803-677-1500.
And tell them you heard about this deal on 107.5 The Game's Gamecock Central podcast.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler.
This has been in the works for a while. We're really excited to officially have the Gamecock Central Hour.
Chris Clark.
And JJ has accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl already, which is awesome, the Reese's Senior Bowl.
And Wes Mitchell.
I think he's well above 200 into like the 210 range. A dude in the weight room, too, like from a strength standpoint.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
All right, a couple minutes after 11 o'clock. Gamecock Central Hour underway here on 107.5 The Game. Chris Clark, Preston Thorne, Wes Mitchell here with me in the Herndon Chevy studios. A lot of Carolina football to get to today. South Carolina had its first scrimmage of the preseason, and so now, as Preston has told us, is when they're going to start to call for ones, and a couple of guys are going to, not you this time, bud, sorry. But a lot shook out this weekend, I would imagine, and we're just going to have to wait and see because we don't get to watch those things. Because college coaches continue to be more paranoid than whoever guards the nuclear codes for all of the world's foremost superpowers. With that in mind, guys, Wes, Chris, it does seem like the biggest headline coming out of this weekend was a bunch of injuries to very key players, essentially 5 starters, and Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Beal-Smith, Corey Rucker, Josh Vann, Sherrod Green, add Landon Sampson to the list. Shane Beamer said doesn't expect any of those things to be serious. Guys maybe even back at practice today. Big deal, no deal, some deal.
I want to answer your question with a question.
Oh, I love it.
And my question is for Preston. So, are you ever healthy after camp starts? Like, what is if 100? If let's say you go into day one, you're 100%. It seems like every year there'll be a list like this, and it'll be about a week into practice. You know, coach does his latest update. And then I see everybody freak out because there's 5, 6, 7 guys on this list. Now, granted, information on injuries, I feel like has gotten more and more hard to come by as far as how, what's the exact injury? How serious is it? Is it something that can linger? Is it something that won't linger? Et cetera, et cetera. But to me, the big thing is avoid the big injuries. Is everybody banged up at this point? Is most of the team banged up? How do you feel 9 days into camp if you're on this team right now?
That's a great question. And we touched on it a little bit in last hour. There is a point in camp where everybody is going to be some form of banged up. I don't think it's this early in camp, though, because they've only had – they didn't have – a lot of these players did not play in the first scrimmage, and they've only had 2 days of padded practice, full contact. So – there's probably going to be a point coming up this week, especially as they start to wear down and classes start and you got all these other responsibilities. They'll probably end up getting beat up a little bit, but I'm not sure it's this early in camp.
Chris, big deal, no deal, some deal?
Well, I think when you look first, like if you're just scrolling GamecockCentral.com and you see, okay, Wes's post-scrimmage injury report from Beamer, and you look at the names and you go, oh, my God, here we go again, right? But the good thing is it appears that most of them are mild. And so we'll see, after today, who was back, who was still limited. The good news is it appears, as you said, Pearson, that none of them are serious. There's some injuries you go, okay, a guy got hurt and he's going to be out a while.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, or hey, we're worried that he's going to be out a while, and they don't expect any of them. The thing that I'm wondering more about, guys, is apparently during the scrimmage, not the guys they held out, but during the scrimmage, there were some guys that got a little banged up, and we don't know yet. Beamer alluded to that in his press conference.
Did not name them.
Mystery players. So some idea potentially after today. Although it's players' media availability, so someone's going to have to be like, hey, Marshawn, quick, before Fink cuts you off, who got hurt on Saturday? You know what's going to happen?
I don't think we'll get a ton of info out of the players, Next time the coaches talk, there might be something.
But Marshawn and Josh scheduled to speak today. They both missed scrimmage Saturday, so they'll at least be able to speak to, hey, you feeling better? What was it? Shane said for Christian and for Marshawn that it was like I think he said like a toe or a foot or an ankle or something like that. The one concern, it's like, oh, you missed a couple of days. You just like kind of tweaked your ankle, and then with an ankle, with a hamstring, you do worry if it's something like that lingers. So it's just impossible to know because, again, these are more highly protected pieces of information than the nuclear codes.
You gotta hold them out at this point. I feel like as the year goes on, like if this was game week, some of those guys are probably playing, but it's not. So especially your guys that have played quite a bit, why risk that tweak becoming far worse by putting them out there if they're not ready? I think especially for your running backs, man, you start talking about feet and ankles and stuff like that. Give them as much rest as they need. There's no reason at all to push that.
Well, I'll have a suggestion why, because all these guys need to get better, because this was an offense that was 111th in total offense in the country, and they're breaking in a lot of new players.
Are they better if they're hurt, though? Like if you're going back out there when you're banged up.
Just because you're going out there banged up doesn't mean you're going to get more injured. There's a chance, but there's always a chance you get injured. I just feel like there's a lot of value in getting reps, and you're breaking in Christian Beal-Smith, new to the offense, Corey Rucker, Juice Wells, Spencer Rattler, Austin Stogner. 5 of like your first 13 or 14 guys on offense are new guys. Like this is not an offense that can take any time off this offseason because it needs to get like almost twice as good as it was last year.
Valid, but anytime if we're talking feet, ankles, or like we said earlier, a hammy, I think you got to go very conservative as far as that stuff
Preston,
goes.
what's your read? I mean, you've been in the players' shoes of, like you said the other day, players are getting told, you're only starting by default. I don't know if anybody's being told that now, right? But I mean, certainly you've got guys who are trying to get better, as Pearson said, or you've got guys that are trying to hold on to a spot or fight for a spot on the depth chart, fight for any number of snaps. You're banged up, you're hurt. And the training staff, right? I mean, they're going to, maybe a guy wants to go out there. Maybe the coaches want to put him out there and the trainers are going, let's ease up, guys, a little bit. What's your perspective on that, balancing those things?
Yeah, so starting from the back end, the best trainers are usually the toughest trainers. So that's why it's so great to have athletic trainers. And I know Clinton, those guys do a great job. They've been around forever. But usually your best trainers are the ones that say, yes, he is dealing with something on his toe, but he can go, right? That's what you want out of your trainers. But also they're there to protect the players and don't put them in any dangerous situations. As far as roster politics, jockeying, there's all kinds of, because there's somebody who, because this person sat out, they got extra reps. Maybe they took advantage of it. Maybe they didn't. We don't know. We didn't see the scrimmage. And so when this person just magically sat out because they had a quote unquote banged up ankle, and I've been getting all the reps, and now they're healthy again, I might feel a certain way. Or I might not feel great about the idea that you get to sit out whenever you feel like it, or they hold you out, or however you want to slice it. I have to take all these practice reps, but then when it comes time for the ones to get called out, you call this person out. So there are a lot of roster, I don't say politics because that gives it a dirty sense, but there's just a lot of movement in things that happen within teams, and this is just part of camp.
Well, I don't know why this is the example that sticks in my head, but I remember the 49ers, when Alex Smith was their quarterback, were a really good team and a good offense, and then Alex Smith got a concussion, and in steps this guy, Colin Kaepernick. It's like, oh, who's this guy? And then it's like, wait a second. He's like 2 months away from having 400 yards of total offense in the NFC Championship game. And it was like, well, when Alex Smith gets back off the concussion list, like, he was the starter. He's got to come back. And it's like, nope.
Yeah, and Jim Harbaugh made a very tough decision And it took a lot of stones to do it. And he said, "No, this is the guy." And unfortunately, sometimes you might lose your position. That's the old Wally Pipp story, right? Nobody knows who Wally Pipp is, right? But we all know who Lou Gehrig is. We get that, right? Because Lou Gehrig took his position.
Well, the 49ers were one power outage away from winning a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, this is strange.
So
yeah, I don't. And unfortunately, we weren't able to go out to the what's the word I'm looking
scrimmage.
for? To the scrimmage and see what happened. But there was somebody on that roster who was very happy that those people weren't taking reps. And that's just the kind of the cold truth of how, because it's a limited amount of positions. And yes, we're all brothers in love and joy and teammates, but I want to play too. So
yeah,
I'm going to try and go ball out while you're sitting outside.
Well, let me throw this out there then, just sort of open-ended. We'll let the listeners chime in if they want to as well. 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a linebacker. Those are the conspicuous injuries. So I want answers from all 3 of you guys. Who benefited the most from the absence of Josh Vann, Corey Rucker, Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Beal-Smith, and Sherrod Green in Saturday's scrimmage? Y'all mull that over. 803-404-6100. Love Chevy phone line, text line, however you guys want to be a part of the show. And you can get us all on Twitter. Ready? At Pearson Fowler, at Wes Mitchell, GC, at Coach P tweets, at GC Chris Clark. There we go. Got them all. Twitter, text line, phone line, however you guys want to be a part of the show. We'll find out who most benefited from those injuries in Saturday's scrimmage.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Monday morning. Welcome back in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour here on 107.5 The Game. Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, Preston Thorne, Wes Mitchell here with you talking Carolina football, trying to do our best to read between the lines after South Carolina had its first scrimmage, not open to the public or the media, but a lengthy injury report, the real story, it seems, taken out of Saturday's scrimmage. A bunch of offensive player availability today should give us a better sense of who is available, who's not. But in the meantime, guys, I have thrown you all an open-ended question to mull during the break, wanting to know, in the absence of some of these, basically obvious starters, it seems like in some order, 1 and 2 at running back are going to be Marshawn Lloyd and Christian Beal-Smith. Josh Vann, the number 1 wide receiver. Corey Rucker, very earnestly angling for playing time, and Sherrod Green, a.k.a. Old Head, a.k.a. Grandpa, a.k.a. he's actually 24 years old playing football, which is crazy. I guess the starting middle linebacker for now for South Carolina. In the absence of those guys, we'll start with you, Chris. Who took most advantage of those guys being out on Saturday?
I would say, and to be clear, not really going off of production for sure in the scrimmage, because we are still kind of learning about that after the weekend as some more information trickles in. I'd probably say running back, when you consider the fact that, as you said, Marshawn is your number 1. Beal-Smith he's a number 2 or like a 2A, 2B with Juju. Just because Juju, he can do so many different things.
Christian right? Beal-Smith's your 2A on a 3rd and 2, and Juju's your 2B on a 3rd, or your 2A on a 3rd and 7.
Yeah. Or, they really like CBS and Pass Pro too, so that's something to consider.
So maybe some 22 personnel? I don't think Carolina's run anything out of 22 in like 3 years.
You might be able to see some of that. But I would say the backs, because you consider with the running backs, with those guys out, they generally know what Juju can do. I mean, obviously he has plenty of things he can continue improving upon, but then you have guys like, Rashad Amos and Lavassier Carroll and, Dante Miller, DJ Twitty,
Turbo.
A really good spring game. That gives those guys more opportunities for reps at the bare minimum in practice, which is important for some of those guys that are trying to continue to develop.
Okay. So Chris is taking the entire running back room off the board. Sorry, guys.
I thought we were doing by position.
No, I'm just kidding. You can take it wherever you want it. The position group, I think that's a very solid case with a lot of guys probably agitating for playing time behind those guys. Anyone else you want to single out, either specifically or as a group, who may have benefited the most?
This is where, unfortunately, he was sitting out also, but this is where somebody like Landon Sampson would have benefited when the incumbent starter is setting out for whatever reasons. A lot of times the young guys get reps that they wouldn't have gotten, or they get them against good players. Because sometimes you young guys will get reps against other young guys, and maybe the coaches are paying attention, maybe they're not, or whatever the case is. But when you're playing, young guys versus Darius Rush or Cam Smith, and you make a play against one of those guys, you get a chance to show out. So if there's any other younger wide receivers, they might have gotten an opportunity because of those reps that Josh Vann wasn't taking.
Yeah, so the younger wide receiver, I guess in the case of Landon Sampson, maybe some other guys in the mix that may have had their opportunity to.
Xavier Mcleod, maybe?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I don't want to mean to steal that from you. That might be a possibility.
That's the direction I was going to go. I was going to say, get Wells just continuing to get reps. I think those guys in the spring were kind of playing the same wide receiver spot, but Leggett did say, I think in his availability, he's played both outside spots. So Van not being in there kind of opened up a spot for somebody to be in that main, like that X spot, which I think a lot of times it's kind of drawn up as the primary target. So maybe one of those guys. I did, speaking to what Chris was saying, I heard an unconfirmed, I should say, report that Lavassier Carroll had a touchdown run. So, maybe an opportunity there for him. Sherrod being out would have gotten Debo Williams reps at linebacker.
That's what I was going
to say. So I mean, all those arguments would be valid, but Leggett and Wells were kind of the two guys that popped out to me because they would have gone from kind of having to battle it out and maybe going back and forth as far as reps to both being on the field at the same time.
Going back to the young guy theme, Stone Bland maybe? Maybe he got more reps.
Yeah.
And again, this is when it comes sort of like put up or shut up time, and this is for all the young players because maybe you look good in drills, maybe you look good against the threes, but now when you get put in against the ones, we actually see that, maybe you are a freshman and you need some more work. So there is probably an opportunity for some younger guys to get some reps that maybe they weren't on schedule to get, and there's definitely more of an emphasis on evaluation for them also.
Yeah, that linebacker room is very interesting. I mean, I want to come back to that. Drew hit us in the text line, 803-404-6100, said Carroll would be his pick, and that was before y'all mentioned they had a touchdown, so seems like a good pick there. So Sherrod, your Mike, and Debo, you said also repping at Mike, so Mo is repping at your Will along with Brad Johnson.
Yeah, that appears to be the way they've done it. I think, it's a little bit, those guys, the older guys can play either one, I think, but certainly in the spring when we were able to see more, that was how it was kind of lined up. And then you have Donovan Westmoreland as kind of, I think, the third guy at the Will, and I would imagine Stone as the third guy at the Mike.
Okay. So we saw, and we didn't see anything resembling 11 on 11 in the little bit of practice we got to see Friday, I guess, except for the very, very end as we were walking out trying to steal a glance as we're being shepherded out the door.
You didn't actually see that, though. You weren't allowed. You had to shut your eyes.
That's the thing. I didn't see it off the record. Mo Kaba and Debo Williams were repping with the ones in the little bit of action that we have seen. Does that maybe lead you to believe that Sherrod might have been dealing with this injury for a while, that's sort of lingering, that they've been limiting his reps in those more full contact situations? Was that just a matter of getting guys playing time, or have they maybe already pushed for those starting spots?
I think Mo Kaba is pushing hard. I think that name keeps popping up. Other players have mentioned him as being one of the guys who's made the biggest steps this offseason. And, with Sherrod, I do not know if this is anything new or just, they kind of had him, I guess you'd call it like a pitch count in the spring. So my guess is there's probably an element there where they're just kind of being really, really careful with him. He's come back from 2 injuries. I think they're probably, it's not a surprise at all that he would be held out of a scrimmage situation.
On that note, and just speculating here, just opinion. Sherrod Green, Marshawn Lloyd, both significant injuries. Sherrod now several of them. Marshawn just the one, I suppose. With the other guys, you get banged up, injuries happen, whatever. Not too concerned about Corey Rucker just because, don't know. Not as concerned about Josh Vann because he had the broken hand, his sophomore year, but other than that, has not been an injury-plagued career. And then Christian Beal-Smith, I don't know his medical history. But is there any more reason, in your opinion, to be concerned about Marshawn and Sherrod as guys that have suffered injuries previously?
I don't think with Marshawn, I don't know if you Preston, jump in and tell me I'm dumb on this. I don't know if you really count as an ACL tear as a guy that's injury prone, so to speak. That can happen to anybody. We've seen guys tear their ACL more than once. Same knee, both two different knees. We've seen guys tear it once, and that's it, and they're good to go for the rest of their career.
Yeah. Was it Adam Prentice that did it like 3 times in the same knee?
I believe that's it. Yeah,
crazy.
And then he went on and played another year of ball and played well. So yeah, you can have that. But no, I don't really think so. Marshawn. I mean, look, Marshawn's a running back. He's going to be hurt. I mean, yeah. Take out the ACL. I don't really know that you consider him injury prone. He had an ACL. It took a while to come back from, which is a pretty normal thing. Van, no. Now, Sherrod Green, it's fair to say, has been kind of injury prone. I mean, he's had he had the injury last year on the second play of the Georgia game. He had the hip injury that he suffered against LSU, I think in 2020. It was another season-ending injury. So, I mean, do you say he's injury prone? Do you say he's had 2 a little bit freaky injuries, which happen in football?
Yeah, I just keep coming back to this idea. Yes, there is a possibility that someone is injury prone. That doesn't mean they're soft or any of those cases. Because like you said, he had Sherrod Green's case, he had a messed up hip, which obviously you can't do anything with that. And then if you have a messed up ankle or foot, and I won't say messed up because I want to get away from those generalities of messed up. So Sherrod Green had a broken ankle, broken foot.
I think it was an ankle injury.
Right. So this is kind of one of my, I guess if I had to get on a campaign soapbox, we just got to get out of the generalities because as long as we can say messed up, banged up, touched, or whatever the case is, then we need to be a little bit more specific about what the injury is.
Yeah. Even if I don't know what a fracture of the 5th metatarsal is, I would like to know that it's that.
Yeah, right. I'm here for that.
Serious right ankle injury is what it was. Yeah. And again, I don't know the specific.
Right. That's still nebulous, but I would assume that means broken or fracture at some point.
Yeah. The chances of us getting, Pearson, the medical terminology on injuries now, other than, you might hear torn ACL, but
better chance that we get the medical terminology or Chris catches a touchdown pass this year for Carolina.
I think it's interesting, though, because you're right. We do hear torn ACL, MCL, but then when there's other injuries, we hear banged up or torn a lower leg injury or things of that nature. And I just, for me, it reminds me of this idea when we first started acknowledging some of the damage that was going on for head injuries. Again, back in my day, you would say, "Oh, he got banged up," or
got his bell rung.
He got his bell rung, and it's like, no, he suffered a concussion, or say he had an actual injury. So, getting a little more specific about that would just give everybody a little bit more information and kind of remove some of the cloudiness from these ideas, because I don't think there's a question of whether or not these players are actually hurt.
You say you would do away with he's got a shoulder.
I hate that.
He's got a little shoulder.
He's probably got 2 of them. He's probably got 2 shoulders. I'm glad you feel that way because I feel like I'm on an island here. I've just been raging for years against DNP leg. I'm like, can I have some more information, please? This is maybe it's a HIPAA violation. I don't know. I was thinking about your observation about the random specificity that we have the other day when Paige Beckers tore her ACL. The article on ESPN didn't say that she tore her ACL. It said that she tore her anterior cruciate ligament. I'm like, man, so she's got a torn anterior cruciate ligament, and this guy's missing 5 games with a lower body injury. It's like, what? Why are we so specific with some things and other things that just could not be more vague? I'll never understand. That would be a constant frustration for me, especially in college football. So Sherrod, maybe. Marshawn, no, is the short answer there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you're, which is fine. I think you kind of get into the weeds and you almost become subjective with it. It's like if a guy's had two major injuries, is he injury prone or has he just had 2 major injuries? I mean, I think, it's not. Now, if a guy is constantly getting all these different injuries that are just kind of not major, like
broken pinky, pulled hamstring.
So let me give you an example. And I'm not, I'm 36 now. the moment I turned 30, and I'm not an elite athlete, but but my body started like breaking down more. So like now I'm kind of more injury prone, right? So I'm not saying this in a negative light, but like Dreek Davis, right? He was more injury prone. Jay Spearman, who played for Carolina, he was more injury prone.
Jalen Dickerson.
Jalen Dickerson, he was more injury prone, and that's okay. It is what it is. So it doesn't have to need to have a negative connotation. It's just when guys have a lot of different things pile up.
Preston, who did you play with that was most likely to play through a cannonball wound?
I mean, I think Ryan Brewer's high on that list.
Yeah.
There's some tough dudes. There's some dudes that would prefer. Cleveland Pinkney was the opposite. Cleveland Pinkney would look for any reason to not practice. It would be he would say, "Hey Chuck, my toe hurts today. I think I need some reps off." And so there are guys that would choose not to practice, but Cleveland Pinkney was great. So it was nothing that. And so that's what I'm saying. So when Cleve decided, hey, I just don't think today's the day I want to practice, then the old Preston Thorne's got to come take up some of these cleanup reps. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes.
I was actually going to ask that earlier. I assumed you had guys that everybody just kind of knew, like, oh, he's not hurt. He's taking a day off. Maybe he partied too much the night before. But could certain guys get away with that and certain could not, I would imagine?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I said there's always a lot of different angles that are coming in any roster, but Cleveland Pinkney was for sure one of the guys. We used to call it he pulling a big man. He'd just be like, Chuck, I said this before, Cleve hurt his right ankle, and then the next day he came out limping on his left ankle. It's just like, my other ankle's hurting today, Chuck. I don't think I need to practice. And then Coach Strong would just be like, all right, Cleve, whatever. And send Langston Moore, Preston Thorne in there to take his reps. That's just how it goes.
So I wonder who that is on this team.
I would love to know.
We definitely will never get an answer on that, unfortunately. we don't get answers to any of the questions that we want to know. 803-404-6100. We will give you answers as best we can if you have any questions for us. 803-404-6100. That's how you can get us on the Love Chevy phone line or the text line. Get all of us on Twitter, at Pearson Fowler, at Coach P Tweets, at GC Chris Clark, at Wes Mitchell GC. A few more Carolina football thoughts and another commit for South Carolina for the class of 2023 from over the weekend that we'll get to next.
Fireman with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
11:39 Monday morning. Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Hour here on 107.5 The Game. Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, Preston Thorne here with you in the Herndon Chevy Studios, and one of the great sponsors of the Gamecock Central Hour now, and even back to the old call-in days, which feel like a long
way
time
back
ago
last
now.
month.
I know, way back, like 3 weeks ago. This has been a blast. We appreciate Integrated Media's continued support of the Gamecock Central presence here on 107.5.
Do me a favor, get to a safe place first, pick up your phone, call 803-948-8327. You have just under 3 weeks. So the season is almost here. Got to upgrade the man cave. You need that new HD TV. Got to make sure that your streaming service is good to go. You got enough bandwidth so you don't have buffering. You can't be that guy. And you need surround sound as well. So those are 3 key elements to the man cave that I promise you our friends at Integrated Media can help make you whole there, help you upgrade it. IntegratedMediaInc.com if you prefer to go that route. But I would just give them a call again, 803-948-8327. Got to have the man cave ready for the season. Hopefully you're going to be in Williams-Brice Stadium for September 3rd, but definitely by September 10th, first away game. Got to have it ready.
Big weekend for South Carolina. Had their first scrimmage on Saturday and also had another commit for the class of 2023, and that is 3-star athlete Vicari Swain. We talked about him a little bit on Friday, but he's out of Carrollton, Georgia. Picked Carolina, Maryland, Vanderbilt, some of the other schools that were in the mix there towards the end. Didn't seem like a big surprise, Wes. You felt like Swain was pretty solidly South Carolina, an athlete, so has some versatility there, but you mentioned Friday specifically how Carolina wanted to use him. But what kind of player did the Gamecocks get with Swain?
Yeah, two-way guy, excels at both DB and receiver in high school. I think he's a guy who South Carolina believes could play either spot at the next level, but Torian Gray's been heavily involved, and I think he'll probably start out at defensive back in Columbia. Helps on special teams as well. has a little bit of length to him. I think he's going to have to add some muscle, add some weight, but kind of a long strider. Gets top speed, smooth athlete, smooth as far as just change of direction, kind of makes things look effortless. And, I think a solid get for the Gamecocks. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say that same thing. Long strider. He's got a lot of clips on offense when you watch his high school tape.
Pretty good ball skills too. I didn't
good
mention
ball
that.
skills. Yeah, I mean he's not a guy that's just going to blow you away with speed, but he does run away from people on that level. He looks longer and taller even than he's listed on tape as well, and I think that's something you like is the ball skills. He just looks like a football player on tape, and when he's playing safety, he can track the ball very well, takes good angles. I really like this kid, on film. So a little bit obviously undervalued when you look at On3 consensus. He's top 75 in Georgia, which there's 75 really, really good football players in Georgia every year. So he's not super highly recruited, doesn't have a giant offer list, but someone that I think could look back in a few years and say it was a really underrated get depending on how he develops.
This is commit what, number 17 now?
It is 17, that's right.
17 and 7 4-star guys? Or 8? It was 7. Or it was 8 and then the decommit from last week?
Yep.
7.
Yep.
7. Okay. So what else between now and the end of August?
End of August. Well,
Waiting on Mcleod.
Yeah, there's a Thursday announcement set for
5
Camden.
p.m.
Yep, Thursday at 5 p.m. set for 4-star Camden defensive tackle Xavier Mcleod, who's, a guy that South Carolina's been on a long time, does have a big offer list, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and a bunch of other programs. That's been a long recruitment that's going to end on Thursday.
That's about it that Carolina's waiting on?
There's
barring something unforeseen.
Yeah, well, there's always a chance a guy or two decides to go ahead and end the process. I keep looking out for maybe Elijah Davis, kid originally out of Wagner Sally. He's now at East Mississippi JUCO. Very, very talented player, has SEC offers as well. Alabama, highly involved, has an offer from them. Doesn't really do a lot of interviews, kind of has been under the radar a bit as far as talking about his recruitment. But, I think he's another guy that just could say, just kind of out of nowhere, I want to end the process. I had heard a while back that he did not want for his recruitment to go into the season. So there's no time, there's no set anything.
It'll just happen one day.
But it could, that's a guy you at least want to keep an eye on. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
So Carolina will have between 17 and 19 commits in the class of 2023 by the time the season starts?
Yep. The other one would be Desmond. Chris, say his last name.
Emiozulu.
There you go.
Nice.
Chris will nail the pronunciations. He announces
help Bill with those.
Yeah, he announces at the end of the month, and South Carolina has been pushing there. He's a 4-star edge guy, someone that officially visited in June. Ohio State's kind of been considered the favorite, but I think Gamecocks are maybe in it a little bit more than people think. So keep an eye on that. They've been trying to make that final push for him with, I guess, about 2 weeks until decision time.
Very good. Okay, so part of the reason I bring that up is because way back in the spring when Carolina fans were expressing a lot of concern that the Gamecocks hadn't gotten enough of a start on their class of 2023, I think you both independently told me that Carolina would probably have between 15 and 20 commits by the time the season started, and now they're going to have 17, 18, or 19. So give yourselves a pat on the back. Nice job. It's almost like you do this for a living. And good class. Not just guys. It's a pretty good recruiting class Xavier's putting together. Yeah?
Yeah, it's a good class. I think, here's the thing, and I'm not being a wet blanket or throwing water on it. I mean, it's at a point, though, when you look, okay, Georgia is still being Georgia, doing Georgia things. Mm-hmm. They're going to recruit.
Do they even accept 4 stars anymore or just 5 stars?
I think they do.
Okay.
I think they make exceptions.
Hardship exceptions?
Yeah. A charity 4-star.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, though, Georgia, no 5 stars currently on the consensus.
I
average.
heard someone say the other day that Alabama has 4 5-star commits and the rest of the SEC has 4 combined. Think I heard that somewhere?
Confirmed. Yes.
That's wild.
Looking at it right now.
I mean, you remember when South Carolina finished 6th in the country for the 2007 class, and you're like, man, here we go.
National championship or bust.
Fourth in the SEC.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and obviously that was a good class. They recruited several classes back to back to back to back that were really, really good, and that was one of them. Even though some of the most highly ranked guys in that class, they missed on some guys like Carlos Dunlap in that class, and then they, even some of the highly ranked guys didn't exactly work out. But the point I'm trying to make is like over the weekend, Florida, whose fan base was killing them for not landing up, they had a huge run, and they're about to get another one soon that's a highly ranked guy. They're out up to 10th in the on-3 consensus.
Wow.
Right behind Clemson.
They got 15 4
I think they almost fired Billy Napier on June 30th.
Yeah. Well, Clemson and Florida with 15 4 stars each. And so the point I'm making is it is a good class. And as I said, I think I said this in the last show, I mean, nobody, I don't want to say nobody, very few teams, will say it that way, has navigated the transfer portal as well as Shane Beamer, especially this past class. I mean, they brought in 9 guys and a 10th and Dante Miller as a walk-on. It was really, really good. And I think that's going to be critical for them going forward, but they're going to have to continue upping the quality of their classes.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good start.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep up with recruiting. Again, Xavier Mcleod's announcements expected Thursday afternoon, so we'll talk to Wes and Chris a little more extensively about Mcleod and that recruitment coming up later in the week. Close things out on the other side with a few more thoughts on Carolina's first scrimmage of the season.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Pearson Fowler, Chris Clark, and Wes Mitchell on the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
$11:53 Monday morning. Welcome back in. Closing things out here on the Gamecock Central Hour on 107.5 The Game. Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, both typing furiously, doing reporting and writing and talking on the radio all at the same time. I don't know how you guys manage it. Actually, I do know how you guys manage it. It's because you're fueled by Firehouse Subs.
Oh,
Yes.
that would be a good choice for after this. Maybe, Wes,
We are going to lunch, so.
we are going to lunch. Wes, cue up while I do my writing and reporting, if you have a spare second. Cue up the Rapid Rescue. I'll
Done.
take an Italian. I'll take an Italian and a New York steamer. I'm hungry, so I want two. I want 2 subs. If there's any left, I'll take the rest home. 12 locations. We can't go to KC yet. It's not open.
Soon.
It's supposed to be open in August.
With a drive-through.
We're going to be there for opening day.
Yeah, a definite grand opening day. We need to go ahead.
I'm going to get the club on a sub. I always get them Harvest Cheddar Sun Chips. That's the only place
Those
I get them.
yes.
For some reason, with the Firehouse
It
sub,
matches.
it's good, man.
And they have, at least at most of them, I think they have the Coke, the Magic Coke
Freestyle.
machine.
Coke Freestyle. Is
I
that
just
it?
call it the Magic Coke machine.
The Magic Machine at Firehouse Subs.
It's the best. We appreciate them sponsoring the Gamecock Central out here on 107.5.
Do we have a little bit longer to talk about the scrimmage or no?
Yeah.
Okay. There's something we have not talked about.
That's what I was
feel
about to ask you. What did we not get to?
You don't even have to ask me. I'm just going to give you an answer without the
You're
question.
a host with me now, so.
Okay, here's the thing we've not talked about. Coach speak. Whenever a coach is asked about a guy specifically, I don't necessarily always put much stock in it, but when a coach is asked about something in general and he goes out of his way to be like, this guy has done this, that's when I listen. And I've been bragging about Nicky Memwari from Irmo for a while. I think we were right on that one, but the guy we've missed on was also DQ Smith. It's not just one local DB that has caught Shane Beamer's attention. That caught my attention instantly when Beamer was like, DQ Smith and Nicky Memwari are ball players. Whenever coaches throw this guy's a ball player on a guy, that means there's something to him. There's something to it. Like, I think he's got the it factor. And
and part of it for DQ is coming out of high school where he was playing quarterback. I don't know how quickly people expected him to be able to play defensive back, but it sounds like he's made the transition seamlessly.
And sometimes quarterbacks do that, man, just because they have that greater knowledge of what a defense is trying to do. And there's a lot of reasons it can be a tough transition, but you do see that some guys will make that pretty quick move over to the defensive side. So, again, I wasn't surprised to hear him mention Memwari, but when he mentioned DQ Smith too, like that was kind of when the sirens started going off. I was like, okay, maybe both of these guys And Beamer, I think, even said it. These guys are going to help the team this year, and that's the position they need help. That was extremely noteworthy, in my opinion, and we haven't talked about it yet until now.
Yeah, huge positive development, if you want to call it that. I mean, Wes has been certainly singing the praises of Nick Eamon-Morey. And look, DQ Smith, he kind of got lost in the shuffle. Like, he was a later get.
Very late addition.
He's a late addition. He enrolled a little bit later. But, like, this kid was a really, really good high school football player. His coach, Robin Bacon at Spring Valley, that does a great job. I remember talking with him for a little coach's corner piece for Gamecock Central, and he just raved about him, future team leader. Yes, he's going to have to transition. He hasn't played DB, I think, since, like, middle school. But from a physical trait standpoint, he was talking about how Torian Gray came to scout one of DQ's games, and one of the things that stood out is DQ just ran over somebody for a touchdown, playing quarterback, and they're like, okay, like from a physical standpoint, he's got it.
All right, so real quick, one or both of those guys on the 2 deep on September 3rd? You say yes or no? Actually, one, both, or neither.
Oh, good grief.
He threw in the neither.
I said one or both, and then I said yes or no, but you get what I'm saying.
Why do you make things so difficult? If you, at least one will be there.
At least one of those guys will be on the 2 deep on September 3rd.
Yeah, at least one.
Okay.
Maybe
you seem
both.
frustrated with your answer.
Well, no, it could be both, but I think it's definitely not neither.
Okay, definitely not neither. That means at least one then.
Yeah.
That's good. You agree, Chris?
Non-zero chance. Of
What do you think?
No, I would lean towards saying right now Nick makes the 2 deep. Possible it's both, but let's just go with one for now.
Okay. Very good. Solid prediction. Yeah. Wes, Chris, appreciate it. Talk to you guys tomorrow. That's all we have time for here on the Gamecock Central Hour, wrapping things up on the Extra Point. And the halftime show with Jay, Terry, and Tommy's coming up next here on 107.5 The Game.
Don't Let This Flop, the new podcast from Rolling Stone, focused on the latest TikTok trends and memes with EJ Dixon and Brittany Spanos.
People on TikTok are becoming convinced that pandas are not real animals. There's a lot of trivia about pandas that just underscores how weird they are. Like, did you know they're carnivores, but they almost exclusively eat bamboo?
No.
They also pee upside down. Did you know they love to pee upside down?
Don't Let This Flop. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.